Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mirror podcast. This is actually the first episode of the new year, 2022, because the last episode was the leading up to 2022, the kind of ending the year, habits, whatever, moving into the new year episode. If you listen to it, I think it was episode 102. But yeah, this is the first episode of the new year. Started it off right. Here we are. I was going to wear my new glasses. If you haven't seen, I got some new glasses, but there's mad reflection and that's not going to work. So it looked like I had saucers on my eyes and there was just reflective and I had UFO eyes is really what I had. I had UFOs on my eyes, on my eyes. My eyes were UFOs. Um, anyways, I'm excited to be back. I'm excited for this year with the podcast. I think we're going to see a lot of growth, traction, even more than last year, and last year was a good year. So anyways, thanks for listening, thanks for following along, thanks for tuning in to Inside the Mirror. Here we go. So something that I've been thinking about a lot are our thoughts, my thoughts, the thoughts of people, what we think about, and the impact that has on our lives. And I was listening to Tony Robbins earlier, and he had this statement, something along the lines of what did he say? Your external life is a reflection of your internal life. Your external life is a reflection of your internal life, your thought life, the way you think about things, the way you see things. Most people are either happy or unhappy based on the way they think. Yes, there are outside factors that can happen, of course, right? Car wrecks, cancer, sickness, all those things. But most of people's happiness is based on the way they think. Just simple as that. That may sound too simple, right? Well, if I just think different, I'll have a better life. Absolutely. Because the way you think leads to the way that you do things, and the way that you do things ends up creating the life that you either want or don't want, right? Your thoughts are where your life begins and ends. It's really that simple. Again, your external life is a reflection of your internal life. How do you think about things? And I think people get stuck, and I've been there too. So again, I'm not talking at you. I'm talking with you. There's been times in my life where I've been like, well, you know what? This is just the way it is, right? Like, this is just how it is. This is just how I am, right? I just tend to be a little more pessimistic. Or this is just the cards I got dealt, right? I'm single. I'm 34 and I'm single. Man, that's just the way it is, and that's how it's just gonna be, right? You just accept it. But that's a thought problem. That's not a life problem. It's not like, oh man, there's no women out there to marry. Like, there's billions of them, right? Or it's like, man, there's just no money out there to be made. There's trillions of dollars out there. But it's how you think. It's how you think about it. When you just accept your situation, if you're unhappy with your situation and you just accept it, the problem is not the situation. The problem is the way you think. That's a fact. It's the way you think. When you accept that this just is, that's a thought. This just is the way things are going to be. That's a thought. That's your thought. That's the way you think. That's a negative thought pattern, right? So people think that we have this, everybody's a victim these days, right? Everybody's a victim to their trauma, to their past, to their pain. And I'm not taking away from that, because everybody has trauma, everybody has pain, everybody goes through difficulties. But you're not a victim of that. If you were the only person that had ever been through anything, maybe you could consider yourself a victim. But you're not, because everyone has been through something difficult or painful or traumatic. So you're among friends. You are not unique in the fact that you've gone through something difficult. But when you identify with that and let that become your mindset, and the way you think about life is determined by this identity that's wrapped up in things that have happened to you, what you have is a mindset problem. You have a thinking problem, right? And again, I've been there. I've been stuck in the, oh man, my significant other left me, and this is where I'm at in life, and I don't have the money that I want or the job that I want. And, this is just kind of where God has me, and it's not that great. A lot of it was because I had a poor mindset. I had poor thinking habits. And I've spent years since I got sober really trying to change the way I think. And it has changed my life. Changing the way I think over the past 5, 6, however many years it is, 5 to 6. I got sober in 2015. But the work I've done to change the way I think over the past years has changed my life. I'm a much happier person. I'm a much more positive person. I have more things in my life that I wanted that weren't there previously. And it's all because of the way I think. I guarantee it. I can track it all back to my mindset and the way I thought about things when I was unhappy, and the way that I think about things now that I'm much more happy. And it all begins and ends up here. If you're listening, I'm pointing to my dome. Where your thoughts happen. Your life is lived in your mind before it's ever manifested externally, before you ever see any results outside. If you want things in life, if you want your life to change, you have to change the way you think, or I promise your life will not get better. If you don't get better at thinking better, your life will not get better. If you don't improve the way you think, you will not improve your life. It's just that simple. And I'm passionate about it because I've lived it, first of all. And I see so many people that are just stuck because the way they think about life is they have this identity that this is just the way it is. There's nothing I can do. Life has done this, this, and this to me, and therefore I'm a victim of that. And that is all just mindset. It's all thoughts. It's all negative thinking patterns, right? And again, I'm not taking away from any of that. You should identify your traumas. You should work through pain. You shouldn't ignore your feelings, but you shouldn't just only focus on those things and not try to improve your mindset around those things, right? Like there can be two people with the same trauma, and one person is able to work through it and become happier because they worked on the way they thought about that trauma, or there's someone else that can have the same exact trauma, but they just stay stuck in that trauma and identify with that trauma, and they never change the way they think about that trauma. So that trauma then becomes their identity, and they can't improve their life or move past it because they aren't willing to do the work to change the way they think about it. Because here's the real deal. I think most people don't change the way they think or focus on changing their mindset because it's hard, right? It's easier to just be like, man, this sucks and this is just the way it is, which is kind of counterintuitive because you want your life to be better. You want to move through things. You want to be on the other side. You want things to improve. You want to be happier. So, but you don't want to do the things to get there, which is I get it. It's you're stuck, right? You're just stuck. And I think part of the problem and what people need to do to help work on that, like how do we, if your thoughts drive your reality, right? And you want to change your reality, is it just, how do you do it, right? Like, do you just think it away? You're just like, man, I'm not going to be a victim anymore. And it just happens. No. You have to put things in place. That's the thing. It goes back to that. Success is determined by your habits. Success in career, success in just happiness, success in the way you think. It comes from changing your habits, the way you think. How do you do that? I wrote down a few things just that I was thinking of that I think are practical and where to start, right? Like, say today you're unhappy. You don't think well. You have very negative thinking. You very much think you're a victim of circumstance, and you don't want to be there, but you don't know what to do. So let me give you some things that I've done that I think can be helpful. A, write down your thoughts. I've talked with my dad over the past few months about this, and I've tried to become better at this. Is when I feel unhappy or frustrated or like a victim or upset or negative in any way, I try to write it down and look at it. Are these actually logical, practical things? For example, if you're unhappy with the way somebody talked to you and now you're feeling defensive and frustrated and angry, write those things down and then look at it. Is it really logical that you should be so upset that somebody said something that you didn't like? right? When you write it down and look at it, it gives it less power because you're able to logically think. It's that idea of logic versus emotion. When you hold your thoughts inside, they turn into emotions, right? But when you write them down, you can be much more logical about them and much more practical about them, because instead of just feelings that are inside of you, they're now thoughts that are outside of you, which can make it much easier to logically and practically go, no, I don't need to feel that way. That's silly. Or I do feel this way, though. That's valid, right? I've valid. This other stuff over here is just me being offended and having negative thinking patterns and letting it make me upset when it's not a big deal. But I had to write it down to see it. So I'd say start with write down how you feel, write down where you're at. Like, where are you at in life? What are the things you're unhappy about? And then think about how you think about those things, right? Like, again, example for me, right? Like, I would like to find a wife and be married. So I need to write down, like, that I would like that, but how do I think about that, right? Like, do I think positively about it? Do I believe it's going to happen? Am I doing work on myself to make sure I'm ready for that to happen? Like, all the questions, like, you have to identify what you want, but you also have to identify where you're at. Like, am I ready to be married? Am I the best partner for someone right now? Am I too negative right now that I would negatively affect somebody else if I was in a relationship? Like, you have to take stock of your own mindset, of your own situation, and you have to take accountability for it. Like, again, I understand there are outside factors. We don't ask for trauma. People cause us trauma and pain and struggle. But at the end of the day, you're accountable for how you deal with that stuff. You can't just continue to play the victim and push it off on everyone else, or blame the world, or blame the people that wronged you, and not take accountability for the fact that you have control over how you work through those things and how you view them and how you see them and how you change your thought process around them moving forward. Or you can stay stuck. That's your other option. It's just like in sobriety. When I was in rehab, they told us, look, here's the deal. You guys are going to get sober, and you are welcome to always return back to your pain. It's always going to be here. If you don't work through the actual pain that caused you to be addicted to substances, if you just get clean and sober, or just don't look at it or act like it's not an issue, if you don't deal with the underlying issues, you're always welcome to come back to your pain, right? It's always going to be there. If you never deal with it, or you never think about it differently, or you just avoid it, you're going to stay in the same spot. So it shouldn't be shocking to you that you're in the same spot that you were in if you never changed the way you thought about it and never put habits in place to look at it through a better lens. That's on you. You have to take accountability. We live in a world where everybody likes to blame everything else. And again, you are not the only one that's been through something difficult. You aren't. So what's different from you? Okay, so I hear this story last night from JP on a podcast, Jonathan Pokluda. There's a couple. This couple was recently married. They're actually on their honeymoon, just got married. And they're in the ocean, and the wife gets caught by a massive wave, slammed against the rocks, and she's a paraplegic forever, in a wheelchair, paralyzed. They just got married. And JP said these people are happy and joyful and just living a thriving life. How? Right? We can all identify our traumas and our pains and our struggles, but are you paralyzed? Did you get paralyzed on your honeymoon and your entire life got shattered? Maybe. I'm not downplaying yours, but that's massive. So how is that person able to have a positive outlook on such a horrible thing, but you still have a negative outlook on your thing? What's the difference? The difference is the way they view it, the perspective, the thoughts. Those people didn't allow their thoughts to make them a victim of that situation. They chose to think correctly about it, to have the right perspective, to have the right thoughts. Now, I don't know these folks. Did they do it perfectly? I'm sure not. But they put forth the effort to think better about their situation. And so the question for you and for me is, Are we putting forth the effort to think better about our situations or to think differently? Or are we just being negative and being like, this is just how it's going to be, man, I just got screwed? No, you didn't. You're screwing yourself with the way you think. You're accountable for the way you think. And I don't know why it's so hard in this world for people to understand. Your circumstance is a direct reflection of how you think. Your life is a direct reflection of your thoughts and the way you think about life, the good things and the bad things. On the flip side, if you're never grateful for anything and you just think everything negative, there's no way you're gonna have a positive, thriving life when you can't accept that there are good things in your life. So, anyways, I don't want to keep going down there too far because I still want to talk about some of the things like, what do you do? Change the things you put into your mind. There's you only need to do so much internal work and discovery before, like, you've got it. You understand. All you need to do now is execute, work through the things, and move forward. Right? So change the things you plug in your ear. If you just plug in stories of victims that you relate to all the time, you're going to stay there. You're going to stay in that mentality. It doesn't take, again, I don't want to downplay it, but it doesn't take years for you to identify most of your traumas. Like, most people, you're going to do about it. How are you going to think about it? So what you put in determines what comes out. The environments you're in or the environments you're not in. If you're just isolated all the time, you're in a poor environment to think better. That's just the facts. I've lived through it. If you live an isolated life and aren't in relationship or community with other people, you're not going to be able to change the way you think, because it's you and you all the time together. You're not going to talk yourself out of your own thoughts most of the time, which leads me to one of the other things you need to do is you have to talk to people, whether it's your family, your friends, people you trust, people at your church, people at your work. If you aren't able to find other humans to tell your thoughts and feelings to, first of all, to express them, because holding them is a terrible life. If you need to have a better perspective, you need to have someone help you. If you are someone who's never worked out and don't know anything about fitness, you need to go to someone that can help you learn about fitness. If you don't have much experience with positive thinking, with having a good thought life, you need to go to someone that can help you have a better thought life. You doing it on your own is a silly, ridiculous way to think about things. It will take you exponentially longer to make any progress in anything in life by yourself. There are a million resources in the world, and listen to you and process your thoughts. There's not a lack of counselors, therapists, friends that have good life experience. Again, I'm happy to talk to people about that because I've been through it. I've gone from being addicted to being sober. So I like to talk to people and help them process their own sobriety and their own thoughts. There's not a lack of people that want to love and care for you. It's your mindset and your decision to not seek those things out. For you to stay stuck, ultimately at some point you have to realize the reason you're stuck is because of you. The reason you don't have the job that you would like, or you don't feel the fulfillment you'd want, or you don't have a partner in life, ultimately the reason out there's no good jobs out there, there's no men and women to marry and have a good partner. There's plenty of great jobs. There's plenty of money to be made. There's plenty of joy to be experienced in life. So there's not a lack of those things that you want. What's the reason you don't have them? It's because you have a poor thought life. Period. Talk to anyone. Talk to any expert on the mind. The reason your life is not going the way you want 99% of the time is because of the way you think. You have a negative thought life. And if you can't accept that, you will continue to be stuck and unhappy. It is what it is. But there are things you can do. You can write things down. You can start taking daily inventory at the end of your day. How did I think about things? Or when something gets you, you're just so wrapped up around like, man, I'm so frustrated about this. I'm so disappointed about this. I'm so sick of this. Write those things down. Look at them. How do you think about those things? If you're like, man, yeah, I always am frustrated with where I'm at in life, but you always just, your only thoughts are negative and frustrated. Well, there's no change. It didn't change. We should not be shocked when the thing that frustrates you is only being fed more frustration and negativity. You've done nothing to think about it in a positive way or think about it different by your habits. The habits, the way you think, those habits, the habits you do daily, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, the habits you have in place will determine your success in anything, in your relationships, in your work, in your fitness, in your mental health. All this success in all of those areas will be determined by your habits and the way you think about them, right? People that are overweight, this is not to knock anybody, but people that are obese and overweight and just go, this is just how I am. There's nothing I could do about it. I mean, it's just genetics and this and that and that. That's just a negative way of thinking. You're never going to achieve what you could. You have the potential to become fit and healthy and whatnot, but you'll never get there if you don't first change the way you think and go, you know what? If other people have done it, I can do it. And then how did they do it? And then what should I do to get there? What are the habits that I need to put in place? What are the thoughts that I need to think? How do I need to change my thoughts? I think that I never could get in great shape, but how do I change that thinking? Oh, I need to write some of these down and go talk to somebody. Folks, none of this is rocket science. It's just hard. I've said this before. Life is simple, really. It's just hard. We make it complicated with our own thoughts and emotions and such, but like life in its basic form of like eat, sleep, survive, thrive is very simple. It's just hard. And we don't like to do hard things. So if you're in the boat of, hey, you're right, I do need to change my thinking. I don't have a great thought life. I am pretty negative and kind of stuck and unhappy. Well, good news. You can change that. You're not stuck there forever. You can change that, but it's going to take some hard work. And if you aren't willing to do hard work, then no one can help you. No one can help you. If you're not willing to put in the work to change the situation you're unhappy with, no one can help you. No one gets to make that decision for you. The way you think is a choice. I know people don't like to hear that because they're like, no, you don't know what's happened to me in my life and this and that. Like, no. But the way you think about life is your choice. Because if it's not your choice, whose choice is it? Who's choosing your thoughts if it's not you? I know people don't like to hear that. I didn't used to like to hear that when people were like, no, Kyle, your problem is you have a negative mindset. And I was like, yeah, but because of blah, 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 blame. No, none of that matters. It's still your choice. The way you think. The way you think is still your choice. Regardless of all the reasons that you have for why you think like that, it's still your, but you need to change your thoughts about it to get out of it. You're not getting out of a negative situation in life if you don't change the way you think about it? Do you think it's just going to end? Like, you think your life is just going to like just get better just because like you just need to sleep a couple more nights and hopefully just better things happen? That's not how life works. The way you think about your life will determine how your life looks. It just is, right? Again, I'm no psychologist, but I listened to enough Jordan Peterson to know that a lot of this is, most of life is just psychology. It's how you think about it. Your life is lived internally in your mind before anything external ever happens. So I think I've driven the point home enough here. And again, don't hear me coming from a place of I have it all figured out. I have days where I just have a terrible thought life. I have negative thoughts, and I got to reset, and I got to do the things and exercise the habits I've put in place for me. Whether it's my breathing routines, it's my prayer time, my journaling, the things I do to reset my thought life. You have to have those right habits in place, because you are going to run into tough situations that require you to really have some control over your thoughts. But if you don't have any good habits in place, or if you don't have people in place that you can process with, and you're just trying to claw away at life on your own, oh, it's me. And I used to think this, and I know a lot of people that are like this. And again, I was like this, it's just me and God. Well, you're missing a huge piece of what God gave you, which is other people. And if you are a follower of Christ and you are a Bible believer, if you're not, then I guess I can't help you there. But if you do believe in the Bible and believe that God put us here for a purpose and that the things he says are true, he has told us that we are to be in community and relationship with other people. It's a command in the Bible. And again, I have not done good at that until the past 12 months or so, when I finally got around some people at church. I finally opened up in some relationships. But I was of that mindset of it's just me and God too. And I've been convicted by the Spirit and by what I've read and by what I've learned to be true, is that you are not going to be able to live a very fulfilling and joyful life if it's just you against the world. I've tried it. I've tried to do it. It doesn't work. Millions of others, you can go Google this. You can go find millions of other people right now that have tried to live their life, just them and God, or just them on their own, them versus the world. And every one of them has failed, because that's not how we were designed. Humans were designed for a relationship with others. So how do you change your thought life? Well, get around some people that care about you and that can help you, and at the very minimum will just listen to you. You have to start changing your situation and the way you think about your situation if you want it to change. If you don't want it to change, I appreciate you listening. This was probably a wasted 30-40 minutes of your time, because if you're not going to do anything about it, then you're just wasting your time, right? Do something about it. That's where I'm going to end this. You have the complete power to change the way you think about your life, and to change the way you think about your life will change the way your life is. Your thoughts determine your life. Take an inventory of your thoughts, get around some people you can process them with, put good habits in place, and start changing the way you think about life, and watch your life change. I can say that because I've lived it. I've changed the way I think about life. I've changed my thought patterns, habits, and behaviors, and my life is much better, much better. Is it exactly where I want it to be and perfect? Absolutely not. But is it on a trajectory there? Absolutely. Is it better than it was 5 years ago? Absolutely. Is it better than it was 2 years ago? Absolutely. These things compound. When you put habits in place, again, the hardest work at anything is the beginning. It's getting going. Once you put habits in place and practice something, it gets easier. It gets easier. So start today and just write down some of the things that you don't think you have, that you don't think you want to continue, that you want to change in your life. Write them down. Think about how you think about course. You're going to be on a better path, I promise you. So that being said, your thoughts determine your life. How do you think? What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about you right now. I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. The first episode of 2022, many more to come. Love to every single one of you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Inside the Mirror podcast. I'm Kyle David. I'll be back next week. Adios.